Good morning. What a beautiful sight to have us here this morning to enjoy this wonderful day. How many of you reflected on the beauty of the day this morning as you came in? I know I certainly did. It was just wonderful out there. Oh, goodness sakes. Well, first of all, welcome to Woodland Chapel. This is our second Sunday in October. We're speaking of finances, and I know that we'll have a good, wonderful message this morning. Is there anyone here for the first time? No? Okay, all our family, all are welcome. I would call your attention to our announcements. Next week, Reverend Don will be speaking on playing with money. Now, there we go. That's a concept. And please join us for hospitality. I think Susie and Greg have got it all prepared down there. Looks really good. Yay. All right. Our visiting class has been postponed. It was to begin on Tuesday, October 18th. Masks are optional. Are there any other announcements that we think we need to make at this time? There's one that isn't on the program that we've had a volunteer, the Story Lady. The Story Lady will be appearing when we have children, and she will be telling stories or reading stories to the youngsters downstairs, and those stories will have a metaphysical and spiritual tone to them. Is any other information on the Story Lady that we want to share at this time? I can't see that far. What you got? Come on up.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have a little voice. The Story Lady, there's not much to say except that children are of spirit. They're made of that God stuff. They don't always know unless we tell them. So the Story Lady will try to do that even if she has to make something up.
We have a congregational song this morning. Kathleen, are you ready? It's the time for one.
Okay, did they get the words?
All got the words?
I don't think we actually need the words to this one, do we?
Okay.
Well, this is a different, it's not the
Well, they
one
have them
mine.
anyway.
It's going to be the greatest
Oh, we're
thing.
doing a different one.
Yes, you have a copy.
Okay. The greatest thing, yes. Haven't sung that one in a long time.
Okay. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. I want to love you more. I want to love you more. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all is serving you. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you. I want to serve you more. I want to serve you more. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you.
In the spirit of service and awareness, we've invited our practitioner, Cheryl Guest, to lead us in an invocation.
Let
Let's take a deep breath in and just release any tension, anything that's going on within your life right now that doesn't serve you any longer. So just release and just take another deep breath in and know that you're breathing in the love and the light of God, the life force. It's in that energy. It's in our breath. And so today I just recognize with so much joy the infinite that is the essence of each and every one of us. And I know that I am surrounded by spiritual beings ready to open their hearts and their minds and to hear the word that is spoken here today. And I know that each and every one of us are in that universal flow, that our lives touch every life of every person that we meet. Every person leaves an impression. And so I'm just ready to open up, allow the flow of goodness, of financial abundance, of relationships, all of the things that are the essence of being human, to just flow through my life. And I just open up my heart and immerse myself in the love of God, knowing that the words that are spoken here today need to be heard, and that each person's heart is touched in some way by what is said. And so with so much gratitude for each person present, for this life that is mine, that life that is yours, I just release my word into the law of mind, knowing with gratitude in my heart that everything unfolds in divine right order. No matter how it appears, no matter what it is still working in the essence of spirit. And so I just invite you to join me now and say, and so it is. I'd like to share the affirmation, and please join me in repeating it. Today, my heart beats with the pulsation of the universe. I feel my entire being moving in the flow of divine direction. And so it is. Namaste.
This time, Catherine will read a special selection for us.
Good morning. Good morning. Can I be heard? Because I can't tell from here. All right. As Moore said, my name is Catherine. Perhaps I should say, hi, I'm Simon's mom. I chose today's reading entitled Believing Our Word, because lately I've been feeling challenged by believing my own word. One of my ancestors said, keep a green tree in your mind, and perhaps the singing bird will come. In the words of Ernest Holmes in his book, The Power of Belief, he says, as we cannot speak a word that we do not know, so we cannot make an affirmation that we do not understand. We really affirm only that which we know to be true. We know that to be true, which we experienced within ourselves. Although we may have heard or read that this thing or that thing is true, it is only when there is something within our own souls that corresponds or recognizes its truth that is true to us. This ought never be lost sight of. We can effectively affirm only that which we know, and we know only that which we are. You can find this on page 43 in the October edition of the Science of Mind magazine. An understandable affirmation is one that's believable by the person doing the affirming. Nobody else has to believe it because they have their own. The point of an affirmation isn't to convince the world of its value, only our own impressionable subconscious faculty. When we believe our own affirmative position, then we can get excited about it, and thought wrapped in feeling forms a dynamic, intense package of creative momentum. We affirm what we know to be true, even when we can't lay hands on it in the moment. because we know what we yearn for. We have some experience of it, even if in just the abstract, or else we would remain oblivious to the possibility. Love is, well-being is, success is. Affirmations shorten the distance between ourselves and our dreams. We affirm in our minds as though we already inhabit the place of our heart's desires, so that we can arrive there in materiality. Today's affirmation: I accept and I expect happiness and complete success.
Thank you, Kathleen. Are we ready for some special music? Okay.
In the quiet of this hour, as I wait upon you now, I believe your promise to be faithful. I don't always understand what your perfect will demands, but I've learned to trust you more in your presence, Lord, in your presence. There is comfort in your presence. There is peace when we seek to know your heart. We will find such blessed assurance in your holy presence, Lord. There can be such sweet reward as we wait upon the Lord, as we take the time God gives His perfect wisdom to be found in God alone. All our deepest secrets known,
Wow. Thank you, Kathleen. I'm having trouble just coming out of this space. And thank you for being here this morning. We really appreciate you. So, good morning. Good morning. All right, money. We're another week on money. I get to do this 2 weeks in a row, talk to you on money. And like Reverend Moore said, this month we're focusing on finance. In other words, what we would do here together is experiencing prosperity in our finances. I wrote this down and I realized it was like an affirmation. The universe is abundant and prosperity exists. I was like, well, yeah. And that is true. But I was talking to Cheryl this morning before the service, and sometimes things just come up in our life, and even though we know and we know that we know, does it feel like we don't know? And sometimes I do a talk and I was like, I just do the same talk over and over again. People are just gonna fall asleep. They've heard this. And then I realized, well, yeah, we've all heard it. And we are on planet Earth and we need to hear things over and over again because we have those moments where we know, but then it's that feeling of doubt and worry and fear that comes up. And so, yeah, the universe is abundant and prosperity does exist. I mean, we can see that all around us. And so the question is, how can you and I experience more prosperity in our life? And we're specifically focusing on money because like Lord Strom said, I love this, he always has these phrases that are so pithy. There might be places in the universe where money doesn't exist, but it's not planet Earth. So money, and doing this talk, I have done so many talks, taught so many classes on prosperity and all that. And I just had this awareness that money is a method, well, we know it's a method of exchange, but therefore it is always a form of relationship. Have you ever thought about it that way? That, I guess I'd come across that, and I might even have said that, but I just really got it. Money's a form of relationship. Think about that. We're in exchange. Money's in exchange in some way or another. Whenever we are doing money, we're in some kind of a relationship. And I'm going to ponder on that. I was doing this message, and I thought, oh my God, I got 6 weeks of talks here. I promise I won't do them all at once here, but I was so much and so enthused about it. And last week we reminded ourselves of the abundant nature of the universe. And that all is just in this infinite creative source, and it's our nature because we're part of it. We reminded ourselves. And that's really significant to understand. It's not just a nice little theology, it's really significant to understand. And we looked at money as a symbol of energy. And and even in a relationship, aren't we just always exchanging some form of energy? What may be our energy and our relationship to money. And so the question is, what may be standing in the way of our good? For good is meant for us. Good is really meant for us. I like what Ernest Holmes said. And Ernest Holmes, we quote him all the time because he founded this tradition. And it's not just he made it up out of whole cloth. He studied philosophers, science, religions, and came to these conclusions, which is probably what maybe not on the same level or maybe on the same level that a lot of us have done. We have looked at all of this and come to a conclusion, which is maybe why we are in this teaching. So here and now, he says, we are surrounded by and immersed in an all-infinite good. How much of this infinite good is ours? All of it. And how much of it may we have to use? As much as we can embody. And he went on to say, life is not just something to be endured, it is to be lived in joy, in fullness, without limit. And I know when we look around, it doesn't look like the world is necessarily filled with good, does it sometimes? But again, who creates all that? Most of it we do. So how much is for us? And so we live in this infinite, abundant universe of every form of wealth, health, financial freedom, creativity, and more is already exists, doesn't it? I mean, we can see it. And yet people are starving. And it's really crazy about that. Yesterday, in my craziness of doing every idea that comes in my head, putting into action, I planted this garden last spring. I didn't have much time to do that, but I enlisted everyone in the family, and by gosh, we got it planted, and then I left. And my son weeded the whole time. I got back, and there was this magnificence. So I went up yesterday, and the garden happens to be up where I feed my horses. And I thought, oh my God, look at all this. I got to pick it. It's going to go to waste. And I'm home by myself, and there's just me, and I have baskets of produce. And I can't stand it. I can't eat all that. And I thought, wow, this universe is so abundant, and yet people are starving. I don't know how to get all of that produce to where somebody can value it, but I also know that each individual has the ability to create that abundance. So there's this infinite flowing reservoir. It's always available. But we only let it trickle through. And I some of us have a bigger trickle coming through than others. But our consciousness, is filled with rules. We looked at this last week, what beliefs of lack, limitation, self-loathing, and devaluing. I mean, have you ever done something that you really felt was just so awful, and that, well, I did that and I don't deserve to have any good after that? I know there have been times in my life where I did something and just was so unhappy that I did it, and I thought, well, why would I deserve anything after doing that? Really, that's something I have to look at. And is there anyone here that, other than me, has ever felt that way? I don't like being alone. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we do that, don't we? And those are things we have to work through. So these rules and beliefs, they choke this infinite flow down to a mere trickle. And so it says we have to get our foot off the hose and let the natural abundance flow through. That we can actually, like a hose, and sometimes when I'm changing something on my hose, I twist it so it won't spray water all over me. And I really can limit that by my own actions, intentions. So if we experience lack and limitation, where life is an unremitting struggle, then there is something to look at. It's not a punishment. There's something to look at. And as bad as it might feel, that can be a good thing. And so this is not in blame, but it's about this process of coming to know ourselves, this self-realization, as Paramahansa Yogananda said it. And I was talking to my son-in-law as I was driving down here. When he and I get talking, it's like we never stop. But we were talking because we're the same personality type, and we quite love that about each other. We just think we're so cool. But we're pointing out, and I was saying, there's so much about myself I don't know, like why I do what I do. And so this was like our conversation. And it's like a lifetime journey, isn't it? It's just like figuring ourselves out. The biggest mystery we've got sometimes is ourselves. So, and our focus today is opening to the flow of good in our life and how can we experience more of that good. So we're exploring two ways. And, like I said, this could be a talk that goes on at least for 6 months because it's so rich and there's so much to it. But I'm just going to look at two ways today. It's really important for us to understand that we are beings of light and energy, to realize our true nature and to trust in it. And this is what we were talking about this morning, even though we know sometimes our trust just wavers because of the experiences. And we can't see. We can see the past, we can see in the moment, but do we actually know that it's going to happen in the future? And it's that wavering in the unknown. And this trust, being able to, and the more we know about our nature, the more we know about this, the more we're able to trust in it. At least that's what I found out. And we're all made up of atoms and energy fields, and that's not anything new. But our finances reflect one way that we use this energy, one form of relationship. And as we, come to recognize where we are in consciousness, this source of good can begin to move through us in a greater way. Ernest Holmes said, "Life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks into it." And I wanted to share this. I was reading this from Centers for Spiritual Living. I thought this was a really interesting paragraph. And again, it's like, oh, we could do a talk on this too. But many people, and have any of you ever read The Law of Attraction, and really lots of books on that? Yeah, The Law of Attraction. And so it says, but attraction means we believe, get this, we believe that our good is out there and we need to attract it here. That caused me to stop and think. Our good is always out there, something out there. But this is as commonly erroneous as thinking the sun goes around the earth. While it seems that way from an earth-centric perspective, it really isn't true. The real law is the law of radiation. What we radiate out of ourselves based on what we open up to becomes our life experience. If I have dysfunctional beliefs about wealth, that is what radiates out of me and is reflected back. So that was a different way of perceiving that. And how many of us have read the books, done all this to attract, and somehow it isn't attracted to us? Am I just not that attractive? So, because it's not working for me. Because maybe we're trying to get something that we aren't. Does that make sense? That it is all about who we are. That it radiates out of us. It's like in some ways, the idea of attraction is kind of true. It's like an electron may attract and draw to it another electron by the energy field. I hope there's no chemists and things in here today. Ooh, I took some liberty with that one, didn't I? So I met somebody yesterday, and they told me that they were a Reiki master to the conversation. And he explained to me why he came to study Reiki, which was really interesting. And he had this scars on his head. And he said, and I'm going to not say this exactly because I'm going to get it wrong, but he had something wrong with his veins and arteries, and they were all wrong. And so he had to have brain surgery. And naturally, I think if any of us are facing brain surgery, we're going to be a little tense. somebody cutting into my brain. And he said he was really had a lot of anxiety around that. And he met this professor at one of the universities here in town. And this professor was a Reiki master. And so he began to teach him Reiki, and he really took to that. And do you all know what Reiki is? Okay, it's study of energy and how we are able to take in energy and allow it to affect us and give out energy and whatnot. So he studied that, and he studied it, and he said, at some point I began to feel that. And he said, it was really strange. He said, suddenly all this anxiety about the surgery and everything went away, and there was this peace that I had. And he, and the surgery went well. And I wondered if how much peace he was able to generate going in, letting go of the anxiety and the belief that it was okay, and in the hands of the doctors. I don't know, but for him, it made a huge difference. And something else about him, I was immediately drawn to his energy. Like, I really enjoyed talking to him. I took more time talking to him than maybe I would have normally on a busy day, because there was something about his energy field. And so we create this field around us, and people are drawn to it, or they're repelled by it. And I'm usually pretty social, but I was going through a difficult time, and my son was ill, and I was really stressed, and I had to retire from my job, and I was just really, actually, you guys, I was really cranky. And so I took this class, because when I have so much to do, one should always take a class. So I took this class at Merrillhurst, and it was a pretty big class, and they had wonderful classes there. And I normally would take a class, and I would engage with the students in the class. It was a weird thing. Nobody talked to me. And this is true. The whole term, I kind of went out of my way to talk to some people, but nobody talked to me. And I realized even at the time, it was because I was really in the space of emitting nothing that anybody wanted to be around. I did my work. I didn't yell at anybody, but there was this energy field around me. And if I had wanted to engage in someone that would be a transaction, a relationship around money, trust me, no, they would have avoided me like crazy, because people did. And which was an unusual situation for me, but it was a real difficult time, and I was cranky. And so it was fascinating how that worked out. But so we can work on the law of attraction all we want. It's like we were talking last week. It's this magical thinking we were talking about last week. Just give me an affirmation in another book, and maybe I'll sign me up for a class. And I'm going to have this. But we are always trying to get something out there, because it seems a lot easier than changing something in here, or even doing the work to find out who's in here. So the second way, because, I got to say this, because this is one of my favorite sayings. Like Jesus said, seek first the kingdom, and all else shall be added. I love that statement. It's so profound. And the kingdom of heaven is within. The kingdom of heaven is everywhere. But the only kingdom that we can seek intimately, I think we can have a mystical relationship with whatever that divine is. We can't define it, we can experience it. But seek first the kingdom, and all else should be added. It wasn't, go out and get all this, and then you'll be different. But it's so much easier to want to change the outside. I don't know why that is, but... And the second way we open up that we're talking about today is the power of intention. And Lloyd Strom again said this: money is the energy of our intentions, a conduit for our intentions. Isn't that interesting? So it's this energy field we're projecting. Like that energy field, I was obviously projecting like no one wanted to be around it. But have you met people that you just want to hang out with them? You want to help them? You want to do good for them? And money is also an energy of our intentions. So how we bend the energy, this bending is directed by the power of our intentions. And we could go into the quantum field and all that if we had a whole lot of more time today. But this bending is directed by the power of intention. Intentions are very powerful. So what do we intend? What do we really intend? Are we really clear and focused in our intentions? So there was this man who loved money. I mean, sure, there's a lot of people who love money, but he loved it more than just about anything else. And he said to his wife before he died, he said, now listen, when I die, I want you to put $1 million in my casket. I'm not sure what the afterlife is like, but I want to make sure that I have something to start out with. And when he died, she prepared to make good on her promise. She was a dutiful wife. And she made some arrangements at the bank and transferred something to her husband's casket. Then the undertakers locked the casket, and a friend leaned over and said, "Girl, I know you weren't fool enough to put all that money in there with your husband." She said, "Listen, a promise is a promise. I can't go back on my word. I told him that I was going to put $1 million in his casket. You mean to tell me you really did?" She said, "I wrote him a nice big check." We keep our promises. So our intentions emerge, you guys. There's so much good stuff. Our intentions emerge out of our heart's desires. Do you ever think of it that way? We talk about the power of intention, the power of our word. But where do our intentions come from? They come from our heart's desires, whatever that may be. And we cannot form a clear intention until we're clear about our heart's desire. See, clarity. And what did we do when we do prayer treatment here? We get clear. We get clear about what it is we really want. And sometimes what we think we really want is not what we really want. So I was reading this week that our heart's desires are our greatest assets. True heart's desires guide us to what wants to be expressed through us. I'm going to say that again. Our heart's desires are our greatest assets. True heart's desires guide us to what wants to be expressed through us next. Yeah, think about that. It's all about getting to know who we are, isn't it? So, too often we just shut down, turn them off, or stop listening to our heart's desires, or think they're foolish. But we don't have any idea how to bring them about, or we believe the desire itself is bad or wrong. I shouldn't have. Back to, do I deserve? So what is your heart's desire? What is your heart saying to you? You see, the universe will not desire through us without also providing the means to accomplish that desire. And I believe that totally. And the reason I believe it is because I have experienced it myself and I've seen it in other people's lives. It will not plant a seed of desire in us with also not providing the nourishing soul with which that can grow. Now we have to do our part. We have to do our part. But it will always support us. And that's when that trust comes in, because we don't know the next step. We know what we want the next step to be, and we want to know what the next step is. But in general, we don't know. Because our human mind is limited to what it knows. Right? We are limited to what we know. But there is an infinite intelligence out there that knows so much more than we do, that is unlimited by our experience. So, desire. Yeah, we may not see how, we may not actually see how, but that desire is implanted in us for a reason, because something is trying to merge through us for ourselves and for the greater good of the world. So in Zen, a monk will be told, this is a little story, an illustration here, which I thought was really good. A monk will be told that in order to be enlightened, they have to eliminate desire from their life. And we know that from Buddhist teaching. They talk a lot about desire. I think we misunderstand what it says. And so they will go off, spend 5 or 10 years working on releasing all desires. And finally they return to their teacher and announce that they have succeeded. The teacher will nod and smile. And why did you do that? They will come to the realization that they have a desire to be enlightened. Yeah, so sadly they go off to realize the desire to be enlightened, only to realize that they are still working in the field of desire. Yeah. Eventually they awaken to the realization that desire is the motivating energy of the universe, moving all forward. They release their desire to release their desires. So, this fellow I met yesterday, when he was stressed about his surgery, and he began to embody this energy of peace. His intention was for healing, of course, and wholeness. And he was clear and totally focused on that, on transforming his own energy, his own beingness. But it's not just about that. It's that sense of transforming our inner energy. It could be about anything. About anything. So the question for each one of us is, how are we shaping our energy? And of course, the answer is, look around, what is our experience? And so we shape energy into experience by our intentions. And perhaps our unconscious intentions, whether we have the unconscious is very powerful. And I think much of it that needs to be healed in our unconsciousness is we begin to work on this in the right and appropriate time. Have you had things come up after you've been working on something you didn't even know was there? And why didn't I know that earlier? Everything has its timing. It has its timing. And that infinite intelligence that knows more than we know and is wiser than we are knows exactly what we need when we need it. And when we take our steps on this path one step at a time, just trusting that the right place will be for us, the next step will open. Whatever that is, whatever that is. It may not seem like something we wanted, perhaps it's something we needed. And so this week, I would invite each one of us to be open to the flow to greater good in our lives. One, to explore our attitude about money. What really is our attitude about money? Our beliefs about it and about ourselves. Our beliefs about ourselves. And to listen to our inner desire. To listen to our inner desire. Really, really listen to what that is. It may not even be what we think it is. It may be we may be identifying an event or a material something when underneath that is a deeper desire. So to really spend this next week getting in touch with ourselves, exploring our attitudes, our desires, and letting our intentions take form around that. Just one small step every day in the direction of perhaps enlightenment. Namaste. I know, I gotta move that because it falls off every Sunday. It's like really distracting. I mean, it's like, to see what that is. Yeah, it's like, it might be smart to move it.
Have a little special music, Kathleen? Yeah. Okay.
Now, some of you might know this song, and if you do, I would invite you to sing the chorus with me. If you don't know it, by the time we get through, you'll have it memorized. We'll sing it a lot. Okay.
As the lands from which they came. And though our words are all unique, our hearts are still the same. Love in any language, straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. And once we learn to speak it, all the world will know. Love in any language, fluidly spoken here. We teach the young our differences, yet look how we're the same. We love to laugh, to dream our dreams. We know the sting of pain. From Leningrad to Lexington, the farmer loves his land. And daddies all get misty-eyed to give their daughter's hand. Love in any language. Oh, wait a minute, I could miss it. Hold on. Find too much in common to pretend it isn't there. I messed up. Love in any language, straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. And once we learn to speak it, all the world will hear.
language fluently spoken here. Yes, indeed. One of the ways we show love is by supporting our congregation, by supporting this congregation, by supporting one another through gifts of money and time and talent. We've certainly had a lot of talent this morning, have we not? It's been beautiful. We've had some wonderful words and inspiration from our speaker. Thank you. And now let's concentrate on our money part. So let's say our offering affirmation together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate, and so it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
Oh, we are just so grateful to be together this morning, this way, that way, and always. And we just know that this goodness and this life and this love and this energy, this abundant flow of goodness that Reverend Julie spoke so eloquently of today, flows in our hearts and our minds, brings us together in joy and happiness. And we're just going to have a great time in hospitality this morning, are we not? Yes. Yes. All right. And so it is. So it is. Okay, it is time now for a prayer of protection. Please stand for this. We'll stand for this and the closing song. Probably almost all of us know this by heart. If you don't, it is in the program. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Let's sing together.